Girl, you know that right now you're doing some things that you don't feel like doing, but you just feel like if you don't, it makes you a bad mom. And I want to tell you that that's not true. That is not true. We come to a place that we do things because society tells us that that's how you're supposed to be as a mom. That's just a mom's job. But girl, let me tell you something. And I'm not going to say this because, I'm hating on dads or anything like that. Because, I have my husband. I love my husband. He is a great dad. But they would not say the same things about my husband the way they would say things about me if I didn't do half of the things that I do, okay? So, with that being said, you can't allow people to project what they believe motherhood should look like for you. And I'm saying this as a mother of 3. My oldest daughter is 16 now, and, it's been obviously a journey. I had her at 17. But, I was 16 and pregnant. That was when that show 16 and Pregnant came out, and I was hooked. But to say the least, I gave up my teen years early on, and then most of my early adulthood, in my 20s to raise 3 children. I had 3 babies by the age of 22. So the way I look at things may be different from other people because some people may have more patience than me when it comes to what's required as a mother. And don't get me wrong, I love my babies, and I move mountains for them. And that is the reason why I face burnout. Because there's things that I do for my kids that my parents didn't do for me. And I find myself always striving to do more and more and be better and better for my kids, even when it's at the expense of myself. And I will tell you that there is no honor in being a mother who forgets about herself, who chooses time and time again to sacrifice herself. Now, let me tell you this. Just recently, it was about a year and a half ago. Now, I say this is recent because, this is the last transition that me and my family gone through in the last few months or so. And it's really important why I'm saying this too, because we're about to go through another one, right? So we moved and we were so fixated on this apartment. I would drive past these apartments and I thought to myself, ooh, they look nice. Now, mind you, I was looking at the littlest things like, oh, it looks nice to drive through those streets. And it was the weird things that I was looking at, but that's besides the point. There were new apartments and I told my husband we should check them out. And he agreed because he thought it would be a good idea too. Now, at that time, we were considering moving into an apartment as like our last apartment because at that time we thought, well, we would want to buy a house. So let this be our last apartment. And girl, that's another conversation because this economy is not a joke, okay? And buying a house right now, whew, listen, again, that's another story for another day. But we decided we want to get in these apartments, okay? And we were contemplating how we were going to go about it because my oldest daughter, the 16-year-old, she's now in 11th grade. Now, at the time, she was only entering 10th grade. And, my daughter had moved a couple times. And, we moved to Texas at a point, and she did not have a good experience in high school. So we were really being cautious about the idea of putting her in another school. So while we wanted to move, we still had to consider, well, how would she get to school? Because that school is not within our boundaries. So in order for our children to get on the bus, there's a map. And our children have to live within a certain boundary to even get on the school bus. If not, you have to enroll for open enrollment, and you have to be responsible for bringing your child to and from school. Now, where I am now, it's a 15-minute drive to go to her school and then 15 minutes back. So that takes me a good 30 minutes in the morning, okay? So we had to contemplate if that was something we were going to do. And we were just you know what? We want to go into this apartment. Let's just do it. Me and my husband agreed that I would take them majority of the week because, he leaves wee hours in the morning to go to work and he's unable to bring the kids to school. So I had more flexibility to bring them. Now, part of it was more on me because my husband didn't really mind her going to another school. I was more concerned about her going to another school because there is a school that's 3 blocks or so away from my house right now. And, she could have went there. That's her home school. And she could have walked there. And so I kind of felt a little more of the obligation to bring her. But, he still helps out. So a few months into the school year, not too bad, right? But girl, eventually it started catching up to me. I would find myself feeling so exhausted and drained, rolling out of bed, keeping my robe on. My hair looks like a bird's nest, and I'm hopping in the car last minute with her. Only gave myself about a good 10, 15 minutes to roll out of bed because I had to get up earlier to bring her. But on top of that, she starts school earlier than my other 2 children. Now, I may not have mentioned this, but all 3 of my kids are in different schools. So you could only imagine what that might look like every day. So I said, okay, let me go bring her. Let me go pick her up. Okay. I was in the motions, but I found myself starting to resent the fact that I had to get up 6-something in the morning to go drop her off, drive, get in my car, bring her over there, and drive back and still tend to 2 other children, and not even thinking about myself in the morning. I literally was feeling restless, and I was just wondering, why did I do this? Now I'm locked into doing this because she has to go to school. I promised I wasn't going to take her out of school, and now I'm stuck in this cycle that I don't want to be in. I did not like it at all. And if I'm being honest, I feel like it was stealing my peace. I just felt why do I have to be forced to do something that I don't want to do? Now, granted, I am a mother. I get that, right? There's things we do that we don't want to do, clearly. And that's why I said it when I first started this episode, right? But I think that it's important to know the difference between causing ourselves to live in chaos and recognizing the things that we don't have control over, right? In this situation, I had control in this situation. I could have made a different decision. And so I believe that sometimes we create chaos. Sometimes it's because of the decision we made or the indecision that we made. Because believe it or not, when you sit in indecision, you're making a decision. You already made a decision. And so to make the decision that I thought it would make more sense for me to bring my daughter every day for the whole school year and pick her up, it cost me my peace in the morning. Now, I will admit, there's some things that I had in place that weren't the best, some bad habits, I would say, like scrolling and watching TV late at night and not getting a good, bedtime schedule in place. And so I was losing a lot of my sleep. That didn't help. And so I had to make adjustments, right? And so when I think about this, it's like, if you could at least identify and call out what that chaos is, you're one step closer to reducing that burnout or stress or whatever it is that you're facing, and being able to create a plan or map out different habits or strategies that you could have in place for you to come to a place of peace, whatever that looks like for you. But I have to say that once you realize what that chaos is for you and you decide you want to create a plan, there's a part that you have to do first, right? There's a part of this that you have to do first. You know the chaos, you want to create the plan, but you have to give yourself permission. You can't feel guilty for wanting to choose to do something different. And that's why I said it's so important not to allow other people to project what motherhood should look like for you. Because what works for one family doesn't work for another. What works for someone else and their children may not work for you. We look on social media and we see people meal prepping, packing all the lunches for their husbands and their children and stocking their fridges and all the things. If you don't have the fancy containers in your fridge, that's okay. I have some cold cuts in the fridge right now. They're not in no fancy container. Sometimes I'm in a season where I want to put the cereal inside a nice clear container and have it in my pantry. And then there's other times, like right now, it's not. And I have a clip on the bag. And so you have to be clear about what is causing you more chaos in your life. Because again, when you're going through transitions, whether it's something physical, whether it's a move, whether it's something emotional, it could be a breakup, right? Which may require a physical move, but, mentally and emotionally, it's a transition you're making. You need to know what's working for you and allow yourself to say, this no longer works for me and my children. But most importantly, this doesn't work for me, because mama got to be okay. Mama shouldn't be facing all this burnout and stress in her life, because you were a woman before you were a mom. I mean, in my case, I wasn't a woman. I was a girl. But we're not talking about that today. You were you before you were responsible for someone else. And so I'm just going to recap these steps for you so that way you could get clear on what you can do the next time you're feeling like you're spiraling, like I was. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to name the chaos. What is this thing that is stealing my peace? Look at your circumstance. What is this transition that you're in? And what exactly is going on right now that is causing you chaos? Then you're going to give yourself permission. First, you name the chaos. Second, you give yourself permission to say, this is not how it needs to be. This is not what I want. Don't start giving yourself excuses saying, but what if my daughter this? What if my son that? What if people think this? No. You give yourself permission. Honor what you think. Honor how you feel. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be you and you. You have to sit in that. You're going to have to sit in the decision that you make. Just like I had to sit in the decision to go out and drive my daughter every morning and drive back. She's enjoying herself at the school. but I'm in my misery. Okay? So you think about what's best for you and give yourself permission. And the third thing is create small habits. Once you're clear on what the chaos is, once you gave yourself permission, think of how you could create habits that support what you want, what peace looks like for you. Like right now, one of the things that I'm going to put in place is that as I'm navigating this new transition as we move, I'm going to consider her being within bounds. I'm going to make sure that she could get on that school bus. And if I had to bring her because it's too close, and if I didn't want her to walk, well, hopefully it's 2 minutes away, down the block. But for the most part, I want her school to be walking distance or she's on a school bus, right? And then there's other things that I would have to put in place as far as how I feel about her possibly walking, right? Because I'm a mama bear. I'm very, very protective. And I also need to consider, well, if she's not walking, if she's on the school bus, what does that look like? Am I going to be home? Because with that change, that opens the door for me to do a lot of other things. And so am I going to be home after school? Am I going to give her a key? How does this all work out? So you have to think about what it is going on right now, the chaos, but also think about the habits that's going to support the change. When you shift and you decide to break this cycle that you're facing right now, what would that look like for you? So I created a guide. The guide is called The Cycle Ends With You. I'm going to drop it in the show notes for you to grab. It is free. So head on to the show notes, grab the guide so you can start identifying what your chaos look like. What is that chaos cycle you're in right now? And you can start ending the year strong. Whatever the transition you're going through, you don't have to worry about doing it by yourself. And you have now support to go reference this guide and see how this cycle is impacting you right now and how you can make a difference right now. Don't wait till the new year to do it. So that's all I have for you today. And I will talk to you again in the next episode. Bye.